Welcome to Off the Rickshaw, the podcast where three South Asian millennials, Mubin,
Samir, to say,
slow down, speak up, and sound off. We're not here to explain our culture. We're here to live it, question it, and laugh through it. From family drama to first-generation pressures, Bollywood dreams to South Asian conspiracy theories, this is where heritage meets hot takes. And today we're kicking off a new series of one of the biggest, messiest, and most universal parts of our lives, the relationships. This is part one of many, and we're going to be starting to unpack everything from love and dating to family ties, friendships, marriage, and even the complicated art of setting boundaries. We love boundaries, right?
of course.
Because in our community, relationships aren't just personal, they're cultural and they're culturally driven. From the Rishta auntie with her binder on biodata to parents who call every cousin's wedding a networking opportunity to the unspoken rules about who you can date, when you should marry, and how you show loyalty, the layers run deep. So if you ever had your mom ask if someone is just a friend, or if you ever had to translate ghosting to your dad, or even if you ever tried balancing your own needs with log kya kahenge, you're in the right place. Think Joe Rogan meets your favorite cousin's shadi after party. This is where it's happening. It's real talk with real masala, deep convo, dumb jokes, and some stories that we'll probably regret telling after. So hop in, take a seat. This is Off the Rickshaw. Let's ride. This is episode 6. We've come some time. Feels good. Let's kick it off, guys. When we hear the word relationships, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Maybe Hussein, you can kick us off. Samir, what do you think?
I mean, relationships, it's a hard word to define. But when I hear relationships, it's just a matter of, that personality, that uniqueness between two people interacting.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's...
No, I think it's completely complicated. I think relationships are complicated. I think there's so many different forms and types of relationships that you can't have one singular definition that kind of summarizes all of them. But I agree to your point where it's a common set of values, understandings, expectations between two individuals, right? And that second individual, and you being the first, can be your partner, it could be your mom, it could be your cousin, it could be your sister, it could be any one of those. But having a common set of values. And what we're going to talk about in this, I think, in this episode is, although you can have a relationship with that other person, even though we might define it as having common expectation or common values, they're not always common, right? And sometimes you have to, although, whether they're family and you consider family as a blood tie or family as a relationship with someone that understands you a lot, those are different. And so I don't think there's a singular definition, but I would like to kind of echo what you said, where it's a common tie with someone else that you can relate with, or maybe not relate with, but you enjoy their vibes or company that you like to build over time. Yeah. So kind of growing up, what was one of those earliest kind of advices that you got on how to keep a good relationship, whether it was from family, movies, aunties or uncles? What was that like?
Yeah, no, for me, it was... Well, when I was young growing up, my parents were always telling me, choose your friends carefully.
Yeah.
And that was the advice that I was given. Don't go for friends who are into, obviously bad things. I think that's a lot of parents' advice to their kids. Pick your friends carefully. So for me, that was the earliest that I can recall is, choose your friends carefully and choose your friends wisely. So that was because I think friendship is really the start of your relationships. As you get older, then you obviously get romantic relationships, and then you get your business relationships. But I think your personal friendship and familial relationships are like the starting point of where everyone kind of starts at. So I think that's where, for me, I can recall choose your friends carefully.
When we got that advice, it was actually interesting. Now that I retrospectively think about it, when our parents said choose your friends wisely, for me at that time, what did that even mean? Because I have gotten similar advice where it's your friend group will define the type of person that you're going to be.
Yeah.
So in my head, if I'm in high school and in high school we have all had gone through the process of who do we want to talk to the most? What group do we want to be
Yeah.
in? We had our gym friends that we wanted to play ball
Yeah.
and soccer and hockey with, but then there were those like individuals that we wanted to sit with and get help with on homework and study such sessions.
Yeah.
And then there were the cool kids who sat on the bench at the back, and you kind of always also wanted to be there, like like see what they're talking about and be included and felt included as well. But in retrospect, now that I'm thinking, like if I were to go back in time, like how would I even understand choose your friends wisely?
Yeah, like to that point, like they say you are the sum of the five closest people to you,
Yeah.
right? So like at that point in time, like early on in childhood, I'm not thinking of like how will the people surrounding me influence my life. But now I can see that, and now I choose friends accordingly, and
Right.
it's so important. But yeah, it's just very interesting.
There was and when we switch over to the next category, which is like the romantic style,
Yeah.
like those type of I can only remember Bollywood movies where like Simran runs away, or like these, like if a guy really likes the girl, like they take off, right? Like, or the dad doesn't like the guy and catches a slap, but they still end up being together and running away. And culturally, there's a lot of stories that have been portrayed through social media, through dramas, through movies that have influenced the way that we see romantic life. Has that have you growing up seen that or felt that?
Yeah, we grew up watching Bollywood movies and stuff,
Yeah.
so I always thought, when you're younger, you're like, oh, will like a violin start playing,
Yeah.
something, or like, will the wind start breathing, and obviously it's a very fake way of portraying those relationships, of what real relationships are. I don't think anyone should really like just look at a Bollywood movie and be like, yeah, this is what relationships are. This is how it's going to be. Obviously, there's some like principles and values within those movies and those dramas,
Like
that
loyalty
have that.
and
Yeah,
honesty
of course, yeah,
stuff.
that translates. But I don't think people should take that too seriously.
Yeah, I agree. Any early advice that you were given that kind of you had to think about growing up?
Yeah, I mean, like how they say like in the Desi community, like there really isn't much of a talk with this kind of stuff. Usually it's like the sex talk, but like I think in general in my household, like the relationship, the whole deal of relationships was kind of avoided. So I didn't have like any talk of like here's what to look for, here's what not to look for. I think like growing up in my community, I know just being raised in a very cultural community. For anyone in Toronto, it's like the East York Scarborough area. We all went to this school, Mark Arno, and you could see every kind of culture there, like
100%.
Indians, Pakistanis, Afghans, you name it. Like there's just different sets of communities, and I think a lot of those communities were a little bit more reserved. So I didn't. A lot of my friends from other communities within Toronto, I felt like were getting had a leg up on me in terms of dating, whereas like I felt like I was a little bit late to the scene because
Just of your environment.
just because of the environment.
It's interesting you said that, because like I went to York Mills, right? So that was predominantly like a Caucasian, like minority Asian type of school. So for in that school, everything was a lot more open. So people were openly like in relationships. I mean, I feel like some of my teachers were in relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like there was just a lot of like relationships in that high school. So for me, I was exposed to it early. So whereas I know you guys didn't have that at Garneau as much, because it was a little bit more reserved. But it's interesting to know that like your cultural dynamic will have an impact on how your relationships form with other people.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things that for me at least, like there was a lot of unspoken things that I saw in respect to relationships between my parents and their in-laws, or my parents and their cousins, that we never really talked about, but I got a chance to see.
Yeah.
So for example, like one of the kind of in respect to like my parents coming or immigrating to Canada, my parents spent a lot of the time with my dad's side of the family, my parents, right? And so the relationship that my mom and dad have with kind of their in-laws is very different, but we never talked about it, but I get a chance to see it. And so for me, as I think about my in-laws, it's like, is that what the bond should look like? Is that what the bond should be? Is that what the relationship should be? And if it's not, is that a bad relationship? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there were things like that I got a chance to see. We never really talked about it. It was unspoken, but for me, that became the definition of the relationship between your parents and their in-laws.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Now I'm going through the process of understanding what that is and the type of relationships it should be. They had a really good relationship with my in-laws, and so I hope to replicate that between me and my in-laws as well.
Yeah, don't mess up, bro.
Yeah. But that's something that, there's a lot of moments like that within, I think, community that we can see that there's a lot of things that we unspokenly just saw, and that became a reality.
Yeah.
And now I guess through this podcast, we could talk about those unspoken moments and
Yeah.
kind of point them out, call them out, and see if they either need to improve or, yes, those are the ways that it should be and that we should move forward. Any kind of, as we kind of set the scene, are there any funny or most awkward relationship moments that you've ever had in front of your family?
Do you have any?
Yeah, I have one. So when I went to York Mills, I had a group of friends. Like there was only 3 of us, and they were both from North Carolina. So U.S. North Carolina, strong like North Carolinian accent. And one day I invited them over to my house and we were just hanging out and chilling. And my parents were there, and one of my friends. Because I guess this is a lot more open with again the Caucasian community, but he was like, "Hey man, do you have any beers?"
Just openly.
Just openly.
Yeah.
And my parents were there, and my parents just looked at me, and I was like, "Nah, man, sorry, I have water or chocolate milk." He's like, "Oh, you guys don't drink beer?" And I was like, no. So that was really awkward. So I was like, it was one of the moments where we just left it. And then as soon as they left, obviously my parents were like, "Yo, what was that about? Do you drink?" And then I got like a whole bunch of questioning, like, "Do you drink?" and all that. And I was like, "Oh shoot."
There's when Serena, my fiance, when we started dating, and obviously like that openness of letting your parents know if you're dating someone, I don't know. In South Asian culture, like you got to keep that hidden until like you're like for sure.
Until
like,
you're for sure you're married that person.
Yeah. And then sometimes we have those hit or misses.
I know.
Where like we do that pre-release and it's like, oh shit,
Flop film.
the movie flops. And then they're just like, okay, do we mention that name or not? But anyways, this is a success story. So like when we were dating, Serena kind of, it was one of the first encounters. It was in our mosque, in our community centers. She came to that community center, and I was with her, and we go up to my mom, and I think my mom had an idea, like something.
Yeah.
And then she goes, and then she just very open. She goes, "This is your friend, right?" Serena just looked at me. She's like, "You haven't told her?" And I was like, "Yeah." That was awkward, but in retrospect, it was funny, and I think my fiance, like Serena, also recognizes the dynamic that we had in our household. But yeah, she's definitely not just a friend anymore. Yeah. Let's take a spin on the romantic relationships of our lives. We as younger adults have gone through transitions of meeting different people, having different forms of relationships with those people, and we've had situationships where like we're talking to a girl, we think there's something, but maybe there's not, and then we've gone through dating situations where we've actually dated someone, and we've gone through the process of keeping it to ourselves or our friends knowing and our families not knowing. How did your family's cultural background kind of shape the way you thought about dating growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like my family they like to get involved.
Retweet.
They're very like in my life,
Right.
and so like I think growing up, and they do it out of love. They just want to be.
It's out of love. It's out of
all out of
support.
love. It's all-
Sometimes they don't know how to show it, but when we get the intention.
Yeah, the intentions are right. The
intentions are-
actions,
yeah.
like the means to the end, I don't know, but they're there to support and help. Actually, funny story. I remember one time I had a crush on a girl. It was after Camp Marafa,
Okay.
which is a community camp for kids 10 to 12. And I remember coming back home, and this was my first time learning that I shouldn't tell everything to my parents. Because I told my mom, and she's like, "Oh, did you meet anyone? Did you make any friends?" I'm like, "Yeah, there's so and so, and there's this girl, and I find her really cool, and I think I like her." And then I remember going to a World Partnership Walk and with my parents, and then seeing that same girl.
Wait, I know how this goes.
And my mom went straight to that girl And I don't know what was said, but I came back and she came back, and I was embarrassed.
Oh no.
You never want your parents talking to your crush.
Of course
Like,
not. Of course
come
not.
on.
Your mom went to scout her out and she came back saying, nah.
But the
Yeah,
intentions
exactly.
are good.
Yeah, exactly.
The intentions are good.
So like growing up, like after that, I learned that like I gotta keep things to myself.
Yeah. Until I'm comfortable.
Until I'm comfortable,
Yeah.
because they get ahead. They get way too ahead.
Yeah,
they
yeah, yeah.
they get emotionally invested,
Yeah.
physically, like
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And then they also have their own opinions,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, I guess like, for example, my parents were arranged marriage, right? And so they've come to love each other and support each other and be with each other, but they started off arranged, right? And so it's funny in retrospect, I'm old enough where we can have these candid conversations with our parents, but you know, my mom is just like, you know, I wasn't ready at that point, like, you know, and my dad was like, just chilling, you know, and they probably like openly, this is very like, we don't talk about it, but they probably had their own separate relationships with other people at that moment, right? But their parents wanted to get them married so they can kind of live their own life, and that's what happened. But now that my parents see me, they don't openly share that, like, you know, this is what you should look for, this isn't what you should look for.
Yeah.
But if I do talk about something, they'll have their opinions.
Yeah.
Like, you know, think about this, or you know what, are you sure you want to do that? Like, you know, there's those comments. And you know, in retrospect, if they didn't have those opinions, I would also be a little worried, right? Because like, as you mentioned, like in the Caucasian kind of family culture dynamic,
Yeah.
it's like just very open. You bring someone home and they're sitting on your dinner table and
Drinking wine together.
and they're drinking wine together and clinking glasses, versus you can't do that immediately in the South Asian culture. And so they have their opinions, they have their expectations as well, right? Like there are certain things that they may have gone through that they don't want you to go through when it comes to dating and romantic relationships. They'll like step in, like your mom probably did in a moment, as a safeguard for you, but you're just like, no, man, like, this doesn't happen in the 21st century. So I don't know. Yeah, those are some things for me as well. Any cultural background stories from you that like have shaped what romance dating has been like?
Well, yeah, I kept everything away from my parents.
Yeah.
Like it was just like they were very invested all the time. Like Samir was saying, like they were always asking like, oh, are you seeing anybody, or who's this person you're talking to? And I'm like, no, just a friend, just because I know that they just ask like a million questions, and it's coming from a good place, but like without anything really even materializing, you don't want to start answering those questions, right?
You know what's interesting about this conversation, and I don't disagree with either of you, because I think both situations happen in different environments. So for example, if I go back to my parents' story, the reason why, I mean, it was arranged and they made it work and they're together still, they have 2 kids, and you know, alhamdulillah, like everything is moving forward in a positive light. They made it work because they also had a pressure on their shoulders from their parents. Like, if you guys F this up, like, you guys better disappear. like osmosis. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because they had so much pressure from society. Like, oh my God, look, this person broke up with him. Like, oh, is she gonna get married again? Or like, is she da-da-da-da-da? That it's like, you have to make it work. Right? So do whatever you want, cry whatever you want, you make it work. Versus in this situation, it's like we have the freedom to choose who we want to kind of be with,
right,
and love, and in order to do that, we also want to test it and be with them as often as we possibly can. Before we take this big step into marriage. So I think there's pros and cons to both, but it's also very contextual. Versus this is what happens on the eastern side of the world, and it still happens to date. Arranged marriages are still a thing. And then this is a side of the world where it's like we have a little more freedom, right? And we can openly talk about these things. Our parents are also being parents for the first time, right? Like, and so they're only parenting us based off of what their parents parented them on.
Exactly.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Rule books
And so that goes into the next question, right? Where it's just like, do we feel like there was a rule book in the South Asian household, spoken or unspoken? And this could be, you know, between religion, it could be between, you know, caste, language, family expectations. Was there one? Is there one? And are you changing it?
What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think there was a rule book, like I just said. You know, like when you become a parent, like there isn't, you just learn from, you know, the people before you. So I'm going to be learning from my parents. So, no, there wasn't a rule book. Yeah.
Like when you say like there was a rule book, meaning that you could, if you're dating someone and you have a family event and it's like you're dating 5-year anniversary. what are you doing at that point? Are you saying to your dating partner, I have a family event to attend? Or are you saying to your family, I have a dinner to attend because it's their 5-year dating anniversary?
Yeah, see, in my family household, I grew up very westernized. Like, I'm less cultured than probably you two are. I'm going to the 5-year anniversary. I'm telling my family, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, for me, I'm convincing her that I have to attend this family event. Like, that's just the way that I've been grown up, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
and I think for me, my expectation for her is that she understands that I hold family up here.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and that's what loyalty means to me.
Yeah.
Right? And that they've seen me 28, 29 years of my life, and you've only seen me for the past 5.
Yeah.
So I have to prioritize at this point, and we can maybe reschedule to the next day.
And I mean, that's the difference in cultural, right? So,
But again, we're talking about like dating anniversaries.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if it was an engagement anniversary
Yeah.
or a wedding anniversary, I think things would have been a little different.
yeah.
Well, what do you think?
It's interesting because my parents were always very like lenient with who I was able to like date,
Mm.
but they were always, you know, kind of putting things in the back of my head, like, yeah, you know, are they
Cautious.
are they smiley? Are they
Yeah.
you know, that's the
Yeah.
question I was always getting, you know, just like little jibes here and there.
Yeah, are they Muslim?
Are they Muslim? Are they you know, are they like, do they have a nice family? Or, you know, and these are just coming from like, you know, it's coming from a source of like a source of love, and
Mhm.
it's not like anything malicious or anything like that. But they just want to make sure that you're obviously set up for success with the right person with a huge step in life. So there was no real like massive dating rule book for me, but there was, I think, some background expectations of me, you know, dating and marrying somebody who is kind of compatible with, you know, family values and that. So it wasn't really talked about, but I always felt that kind of, you know, expectation.
Yeah, I definitely think that there is an unspoken rule book. I think, like, and I guess this also depends on how traditional your parents are
Yeah.
and how long they've lived in this Western side of the world.
Right.
My parents have not lived a long time in the Western part of the world, and so a lot of their mindsets they're actually carrying from Pakistan or their experiences in Dubai, or do you know what I mean? So I mean, they've only been here for 23 years, and so their idea was, you know, it would be really nice. And when I say really nice, it's bolded, underlined, and in font 12 compared to the rest of the sentence. It'd be really nice if you found someone who is brown, South Asian, you know, someone who is an Ismaili Muslim. So you know, a sect of a sect, very specific. And I guess that dating pool is also not that large. Like,
But even within that,
Yeah.
there's even more
yeah,
like breakdown. Like,
are they from Pakistan?
Are they from East Africa? Are they from Afghanistan? Like,
Yeah.
from within that, there's like, you know, expectations
Yeah.
and stuff. So
But at the end of the day, like, you know, at least for my parents, they've come to realize after some time now that at the end of the day, you're going to be spending the rest of your life with them.
right.
Yeah.
So are you content? Like, are you okay with this? Because the unspoken reality is that it is very tough to go outside of your cultural zone and marrying someone because, like, I don't know. I might need you guys your help to articulate this, but you know, when you have to think a little further down the line when you have kids, right? Or like, and I'm talking specifically about faith and religion. Like when you go farther down and talk about this to your kids, like
Yeah.
at the young age for me, for example, like I was just put into this religion, right? At age 0, I didn't really have a choice. I started practicing these rules. For me, at least, and for others, it's different. For me, the rules made sense.
Yeah.
Right. And so I abided by them, and they've helped me, and they've shaped me, and they've guided me. For a lot of people, they don't, and they choose other faiths and the other religions and so forth, and that's totally fine. But are you putting that pressure on your kid later on to decide what they should or should not do, and how they should practice, how they shouldn't practice, and you know, like, so it's some long generational thinking that would need to go into that. That my parents, I think, for my sake, thought that if you just do this, then you don't have to go through that generational kind of pressures for your kid later on.
Yeah.
Which kind of, in retrospect, I think about now.
Yeah, I mean, religion's a tough one. Ideally, you find somebody that has a similar mindset to you.
Mindset,
Like,
absolutely.
Like if two religious people are dating, it's ideal that both of them
They're
are
the same.
of the same religion.
Yeah.
Because if you have a really strong religious person who's of a different faith and they're dating somebody who's also strong in their religion, in a different faith, that can clash when you have kids and
100%.
whatnot. But if you have one that's maybe less religious and one that's more religious, then that person
You can find a happy medium.
exactly
Yeah.
that less religious person is probably more willing to make a compromise, saying,
Right.
okay, that's fine,
That's
raise
fine,
the
yeah.
kid this way,
Yeah,
so and so. So I think no matter what, it's just finding that partner that you can find that
good point.
that solution to,
Right.
Yeah.
No,
That's a
that
good point.
100% makes sense.
Yeah.
Any kind of
No, I think you guys hit it on the head.
and how are you guys redefining? Like you said, there wasn't a real book.
Yeah.
Gotta change that answer.
Yeah, after hearing your answer,
Yeah, I thought so.
There's definitely
But what do you? I think the thing is like, what are you changing about that for your future generations? Like, what are there things that you're keeping?
Yeah. So like you said, I think there's definitely an unspoken rule book. There's not as much a written rule book.
No,
There's
of course not.
unspoken for
Yeah.
sure. Because I remember my mom telling me like asking those same questions. Like, forget just religion, but like, okay, like
What did you do for work?
well, yeah, I was gonna say, we're missing such an important
Work.
thing.
Work.
How much money?
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah,
these are questions,
Yeah.
right? Like, and like you said, they're all loving questions because they're looking out for our best interests. Can they
Yeah.
support us in our life
Right.
and what we want? But how am I changing it? You know, I'm constantly telling my parents like, but does that even matter? Like, what? You know, I'm trying to change their perspective on it.
It's old school thinking.
Yeah, it's old school thinking, and I'm trying to teach them and future generations. I'm gonna hopefully they'll see from my actions
And your relationship with your partner.
and my relationship with my partner. Here's what you can learn, but also, you know, I'll also pass down to them like, okay, when you're going through your own dating life, you know, it might not matter where they're from, what religion they are. It might, but it may not. So don't just use that as don't narrow it down. Especially from what I'm saying, hopefully as a parent, I'm gonna come to my kids and be much more open to what they want.
Yeah.
Whereas my parents were like, "Here's what I want from you,"
Yeah.
not like, "Samir, what do you want?" And with my kids, I want it to be more, you know, more like less dictatorship and more like, you know, just coming at it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you changing kind of in respect to kind of the conversation that you've had in the past versus what you will have in the future when it comes to dating and relationships with your kids or
Yeah, no,
cousins?
I feel like I'll be the opposite with my kids than my
Yeah.
parents were. I feel like I'll be a little bit more less lenient with my kids.
Yeah.
And it's not because I want to come at it from like a controlling point of view, but it's mostly just, and I'm not going to say like to my kids, like, you know, you have to date, you know, this person, but I will be a little bit more not involved, but I'll kind of want to provide a little bit more guidance based on my own experiences that, you know, just think carefully, think wisely about the choices that you're making because I didn't make the wisest choices growing up. So I want to make sure that for my kids that I'm giving them the right guidance, and if they want, and then obviously they're gonna part of growing up is, you know, making your own mistakes and learning. So, you know, obviously I'll be like lenient in that sense, but I will probably provide a little bit more guidance than my parents kind of gave to me on that. So I will provide a little bit more of that insight.
For me, it's just going to be about not having an expectation, but rather just, I like your approach of, I'll ask questions to allow them to think about their decision making, but with no expectation behind them.
Yeah.
Right. So like, you know, asking them, you know, questions around, you know, how will you see kind of this unfolding within the next couple of months?
Yeah.
Right. But not expecting that they're going to either be together or not. Like, I don't know, and I don't care to know as long as they're happy, but asking them so they think about it and they're making informed decisions and they're doing it based off of, they're not going out of their means in order to make decisions for themselves. Like, I know earlier on, like, I thought that giving the person that you're dating a lot of gifts was like the way to win their heart, right? In retrospect, it would have been nice to have talked to someone or given that advice of that, you don't, like, if that's what they're after, maybe that's not the relationship that you want to be in. So there's a lot of things that could be different and rewritten. And I think every school of thought is going to evolve over time, right? Like, and then who knows what it's going to be like for our kids in 2030 or, you know, 2040. That being said, it's so weird saying that 2040.
Yeah.
Holy cows.
Feels so far, but so
Yeah.
near at the same time.
Thinking about future direction, in today's time, there's been a huge upsell to a lot of young people on dating apps, and that has shifted the way that they look for a significant other.
Yeah.
First of all, have you used a dating app?
Yes, I have.
Have you used a dating
I
app?
found my wife on a dating app. So
I have never used a dating app, and
You've
so
never
this is
used,
going to
like,
be an interesting
Tinder,
conversation.
Tinder, Bumble?
I've never downloaded or made an account on any of those platforms.
yeah,
That is also out there. We don't judge. Yeah. Unspoken dating rule book though.
definitely.
How have you guys like seen this change on how you meet people and
So I think me and Samir will have very opposing views on this one.
yeah.
Because I personally found dating apps to be a complete waste of time.
Really?
Yeah, I just found it to be a waste
Did
of
you
time.
make sure that
It was
your
just-
categories were appropriate?
Yeah, they were all appropriate, but it
Did you
just
put some
seemed
nice
like...
pictures on there?
But that's the thing, right? Like, I feel like it's showing a very specific side of someone, right?
Yeah.
You don't get to see everything. It's like a little bit of... It's like a trailer, basically, into, like, the full movie.
And the
Like,
movie's a flop.
and you don't know half the time... Actually, most of the time, if the movie's gonna flop or if it's actually
But
gonna
all the
turn out.
best scenes in the
So,
trailer.
Samir's version, it turned out really well. It was like
Yeah.
a masterpiece. He
What
won
did
an
you-
Oscar. He won an Oscar. So it's
Wait, that you know what? Turn the tables a little.
Yeah.
Like, what did you put in your kind of descriptions and stuff? That
Yeah, I mean,
did you
Today
have, did you have
exposure.
those categories in there? Like I'm an Ismaili Muslim. you know,
Yeah,
this is what I've studied. This
So
is
I'm
what
looking
this is
for-
how much I'm making.
I didn't go into that much, but in the beginning, I was just pretty free flowing with it. Like
Yeah.
I just put anything, but then towards the end, I realized that I'm kind of marketing myself, so I have to like
Exactly.
kind of see from the women's perspective
Yeah.
what
They're looking
what are they getting. So
Yeah.
like towards the end, it almost looked like an ad.
It's basically an ad.
advertising
You're
myself.
advertising yourself.
So I was like highlighting on why date me
Yeah.
out of these thousands of guys. So I don't know if that worked or not. Clearly, it found my wife.
full meeting schedules.
But yeah, that my thoughts on dating apps, like although it did work for me, it was quite frustrating. It took a lot of time.
How long were you on it for?
So I think like before our podcast started, these guys saw my
I'm quite genuinely curious.
these guys saw my schedule before, and I would block off an hour just for like just
Shower.
for like just being on dating apps and just responding back to messages and handling the swipes and whatnot. So I'd dedicate a good hour for it, but it would take a lot of time, and because it's so superficial. The one thing that I hated was having the same conversation over and over again
with a different
with a
person.
different person.
What was that one common question amongst all of them?
It was just like, what do you do? Like, what do you do for fun? Towards the end, I had I wrote down like on a Google Docs or like
ChatGPT, copy paste.
like I would have the same questions, kind of like.
Just forward it like a WhatsApp.
Yeah, pretty much. I was like, okay, if I'm gonna have the same conversations over and over again,
What would you? Well, I mean, I'm not going to ask this question because you found your significant other on it. I was going to say, like, what would you have done differently? But whatever you did worked.
yeah, whatever I did work.
You got a partner out of it. But I mean, let's talk about it more like
You never went on one.
honestly. Just I was pretty involved in the community, and I like
He didn't need it.
and so again, unspoken South Asian dating rule book. In my head, I had already settled for someone that was going to be part of this community.
Yeah,
Right,
sure.
so it's like
Fair.
if I'm going onto these type of apps, like I'm gonna have such a huge challenge.
Would you go on a dating app that was designed for a community?
Yeah.
Because there is one that.
Yeah.
Oh, there are.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
at that time, it wasn't so hyped. Like, at least when we were
True,
there, it wasn't
true.
that hyped. Now it is.
Now it's like huge.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's been there for a while, and that's where I met my wife. Is one.
one specific
One
to that.
specific.
Yeah.
So it can help.
It can help, yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I find like the social events that they do now is something that was missing in our time.
Oh, 100%.
Because I would have
Community
probably
social
attended
events.
those events. Like they're really cool events now that they like. I think last time they just went on like some
A boat.
a boat cruise. Like where was that
The
during
social
our time?
spot,
Right.
Yeah.
But like that's the way it should be done.
I also feel like apps are good for introverts because Mubin,
True.
you're an extrovert.
That is
Compared to us two, like I can't see myself just
Just
walking
walking up to
somebody
someone. Exactly.
and being like, "Hey,
True.
I'm Samir. What's your name?"
That's a
I
good
can't
point.
do
That's
that.
a good point.
That
That's a good
scares me to death.
Yeah.
Whereas you probably could. So for
Fair.
me,
Fair.
it felt way more comfortable
Good
to be
point.
on the app and be like, "Hey, how's it going?"
Right. That's a good
So,
point. It's a good start. It's a good
It's a
starting. It's a starting.
I think it's a
thing.
personality thing.
Interestingly enough, like I would also actually be nervous to message someone I didn't know to be
Yeah.
like, hey, what's up?
Yeah. So
Like, I gotta be a little
So it's
awkward.
like a different perspective.
different
right?
perspective.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, interesting. So, how do you guys feel like this is going to evolve over the next couple of years? Are we going to go back? Like we had this period of people meeting people in person, and then we had this period or are in this period of apps and social media and digital services to support kind of romantic situations. And then like what's the future state? Are we going to go back in time to in-person situation like
I think
meetups?
as AI and technology comes out, we're going to get further away from those social
Really?
interactions. I mean, that's just my thing. I think a lot of kids nowadays are, I mean, you see like 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds just like glued to phones and stuff. Like, I feel like that, like, digital and technology is like the way of the future. And I feel like we're losing some of that social interactivity.
I agree.
And I feel like that's just going to translate more into the dating world. I feel like that I think that art of, you know, just approaching someone like
Interpersonal skills.
like in our parents' age where they didn't have that and they actually just had to like go up to someone or meet somebody like that. I think that's definitely a dying art, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think technology is just going to be, there's going to be more dating apps or just AI, like some I'm sure it's AI will play some
Help
sort of,
you
find someone like a matchmaker or something like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's more digital.
That I know. Just on a side note, I'll get to you, but for those who are listening who are like under the age of 18 and are using dating apps, like if that's where you find your solace, like we have one success story, one success story here.
Failure on my side.
That is a method, but it's, as Hussein said, it's very important for you to also build your in-person social interpersonal skills.
Yeah.
Like go out there, talk to as many people as you possibly can, introduce yourself. If you can't, there are methods in which you can, like go to community circles, go to community events, you know, and try to just talk to people in person. I think that's I don't want this to be a dying skill. Like I really go out there and speak to people. But kind of going back to you, kind of how do you see this thing evolving or shifting?
Yeah, like Hussein said, I think we're going too much on the other way. And we were earlier speaking about the differences between Eastern and Western, like the mindset. Whereas the Eastern is very quick to move off stuff. So like things I'm seeing right now is that there's a lot of options. And if you're in a relationship, it's kind of easy to be like, I'm gonna move off this because I can find somebody else.
Right.
So I feel like the mindset now is like you're not sticking through it. You're not sticking through or fighting through the problems. I'm seeing a lot of divorces now with my friends, and that's probably because we've gone too far of if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Like don't even bother trying to fix it.
Yeah. Whereas our parents, just even though it was a very negative thing to be like, I have to make this work at all means.
They stuck through.
They were too far that way. Whereas I think now we're too much of a, if it doesn't work, that's fine. I can find somebody better.
There's two things that I don't appreciate in today's time when it comes to just digital kind of conversations or romantic conversations digitally. Number one is there's an expectation that you should understand the emotions or read the emotions off of text messages. Like someone might not actually mean to say something a certain way, but because you come from a context or history that you read things in a negative light, you might actually be affecting a really good relationship just because of perception.
Yeah.
Right? Body language is another one. Like a lot of the times you can tell how a person is feeling, conveying themselves, emoting just by their body language. How open are they? How open are they?
Yeah.
They how, you know, are they using their hands? Is their back straight? Are their eyes focused on you? These type of things are such big cues that I think step one is getting on a dating app and getting to know people or getting access to a list of people that you can go and meet.
Yeah.
Step two is meeting with them. Right? Like how long did you actually spend interacting with those kind of individuals before you were like,
so I think
I want to move this forward?
Yeah. So initially I had a phase where I was just kind of like, okay, match, talk for like a day or two, and then try to meet up with them in person, like as quickly as possible. But I think that comes with downsides too, because you're wasting time in a sense. Time is limited, especially in the Eastern world, you know. But what I would try to do, like towards the later end of my dating life, my single dating life, is try to get on a quick call. You know, even a 20-30 minute call can go a long way. Because like you said, you're not getting those social cues over text, whereas like over phone, you can feel them out. Like you can get a sense of a vibe just based off of voice how they're saying things, and then meeting up with them in person. Right?
Yeah. How is it from I don't know if you guys have talked about this, but from your partner's side? Have you guys talked about that?
Like
How she perceived you on the app?
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting because I asked her that, and she's like, the way I see you now is way different than.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. She's like, you look completely different. She thought I looked
So-
like a douche.
This guy catfished.
Wait, why are you-
This guy catfished his way into our DMs.
No, I don't think it was catfishing, but I think the perception is often different. You look at my pictures, you know, I might look a certain way. Like the perception people often saw me was like, I look too cool. I look like a douche, you know. Whereas like I'm much more. I'm not that way, obviously.
You're a nerd.
Yeah, I'm complete opposite of that. I'm like, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's just, I think it's just, you know, they say don't judge a book by
By
cover.
cover.
So I think some people you can just see and you're like, okay, this is probably what I'm getting to. But
Yeah.
some people
Hmm.
are completely the opposite of what they look like, you know.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Really quickly before we wrap up, you know, we'll end this episode on the romantic and dating side. But how has your own view on dating changed over the past couple of years? And how, I mean, we talked about it a little bit from a dating app perspective, how you see it in the future, but how do you generally see it kind of evolving within your households, within your communities?
Well, for me personally, I'm married, so there's more dating.
No, for all three of us. But for those who are listening, who are single,
I actually kind of worry a little bit for like, because I see people struggling trying to meet people. And I actually feel really bad for individuals like who I know that have been struggling for so long and who have gotten out of long relationships and it never materialized into anything. And it's like it's that process of like starting afresh or starting again.
It's tough.
And especially at like our age. And I think for men, I think it's easier because we can afford to wait and sit. But I think for ladies, it's a different
100%,
story. And for
100%.
women, it's a lot tougher for them because they have certain biological and familial
Timelines.
expectations and timelines. And unfair that unfortunately they have to, you know, take into consideration that men certainly don't need to.
Yeah.
So
and even if they want to extend the avenues like egg freezing and stuff like that, it's not cheap, right? And so
they have a very difficult way of like having to try and navigate some of these relationships where we can afford to be a little bit more patient and immature actually in that sense, and we can like wait to grow up. Whereas I feel like for women, for ladies, that they have to kind of unfortunately push things up and ahead of schedule, and it's kind of sad to see. You know, it's like in the sense that like, you know, so many are struggling, men and women in the dating world that I personally have seen witness to, and it's tough.
have you talked to any of them? What's been your advice to them? And
honestly, I don't even know what to say to people because being like married, like it worked out for me. I just try and tell people like, you know, just wait and be patient. Like, you know, the right person will, you know, the typical right person will come along and stuff. But again, it's like how long like saying that, you know, the right person will come along to a woman is a very different thing than saying it to a man, right? So it's like.
And there's a whole another layer of loneliness that a lot of people feel nowadays.
Oh, there's a lot of anxiety and loneliness that people feel, and it's sad. Like, you know, people there is an increase in loneliness for sure, and especially during COVID and after COVID, that he had a huge impact on relationships. So I actually am a little bit worried about the whole dating scene right now because it seems very. From what I see on social media, it's very superficial. It's very hookup culture. It's just getting out of control. And it's a lot worse than when we were growing up.
I agree.
For sure. So I kind of worry about the kids and the youth of today and where they're kind of going. It's tough. And I don't think I have a right answer, and I don't know if there is a right answer. But you know, I definitely feel sorry for individuals who are going through that.
Yeah. How about you?
Yeah. So for the future, you know, generations, I think my advice to them is like, don't fall to any sort of pressure, like for like societal pressure or parental pressure. My advice is know what you want. Like, just go for what you want, because a lot of people I see, at least in my circle, they try to go for something that they think is right, but they don't want. Like, for instance, like people will be like, oh, I need my partner to look a certain way because, you know, all my friends are getting good looking girlfriends, and so I need to find somebody
That comparison, that same
that
comparison.
compares. Or it's like, okay, my partner is, let's say, a doctor. I need to find somebody who's, just as successful, So societal pressure can play a part into it. And also said, like, parental pressure, parents want something like, okay, they need to be of a certain religion. Is that what you want? Or if it's not what you want, try not to, do something that you don't want.
Yeah.
So, like, we were going to talk about boundaries and stuff, and we'll probably get that to another podcast, another episode. But I think just doing what you want and putting up your boundaries on the world and your parents.
I there's not much to say relative to what you guys both said. If you're someone who's looking for a significant other, a partner, get out there, talk to people, get part of the communities. There are communities out there that are pushing for this and trying to create environments where you can get to know each other, network, and get as immersed. Again, there are dating apps like the ones that we've talked about today that you can get on and test out. Like, you don't actually know anything until you actually go on it and test it out. Like, you might actually go on there, meet a couple of people, and you're just like, this platform's a mess, and get out. But that also guides you in a way where you maybe then need to get out in personal events and talk to more people. There's a lot to tackle within this episode of relationships, and that's why I initiated saying that this is going to be a part one. Relationships are very messy, very culturally driven, and they're constantly evolving. As we talked about alone in this episode, we talked about so many different generations and have their own ideas
and different types of relationships, right?
And different types of relationships. What we're going to do is we're going to, on social media, when we release this episode, we're going to release a post with a poll where you can share kind of your views on relationships and maybe topics that you'd like for us to talk about in it as well. Secondly, we've been hearing really good feedback on the episodes thus far, and we want more. Let us know what your thoughts are, your perspectives are, your opinions are. In future episodes, we're going to be having guests from different walks of life that are going to be talking about their journeys in relation or not in relation to relationships, which should be really cool. And within this specific episode, and future episodes on relationships, we're going to be talking about marriage, divorces, interfaith, intercultural love, and how generations are redefining the rules of what romantic, family, professional relationships should look like, and how they will be moving forward as well. So if you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to share it with your loved ones, your family, your friends, your cousins. And that's a wrap on this ride. Thanks for hopping off the rickshaw with us, where the conversations are just as chaotic and comforting as a family WhatsApp group chat at 2 a.m. If you laughed, felt seen, or enjoyed the vibe, show us some love. We've been getting a lot of feedback, and we want more. Follow, share, drop a review, or send this to that one cousin who you maybe talked about relationships with in the past. Got a topic you want us to unpack, a hot take you want us to share or speak on? Slide into our DMs and hit the link in the show notes. We're listening, even if you think your parents might not be. Until next time, stay brown, stay loud, and stay a little unfiltered. Until next time.
Peace.
Is that cool?
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, you know what?